Hey everybody, this is Dragon Ball. Show me the work. What does that mean? You'll find out. But first of all, we gotta introduce ourselves. I'm Fighterxaos, and with me is my normal co-host, Wheelchair21.
Hello there, I am Wheelchair21, but you'll get to know me, just like you'll get to know Fighterxaos in a little bit. So let's go over to our third man at the table.
Hey, my name is Alex, or other known as TheBadGamer. Yeah, this is going to be an exciting new show we go doing here, and I don't know where to go from here. I'm really bad at these openings, as you're going to learn in the future.
Alright, you're gonna know that it's not that he's not hype, it's that he's Swedish.
Oh, thank you.
And that's another thing you're gonna learn about us. We're gonna be a little bit different than your normal Dragon Ball podcast. We're not jerks, but you're gonna see we like cracking on things. If you like that type of humor, you'll like us. And with that said, Wheels, this is our other nickname for Wheelchair21. What do you want to go with first?
Alright, I was thinking let's just do the basic introduction so people either know what necessarily the show is and who we are, or who we are than what the show is. Like, whichever one you would prefer, whether you think people need to know who we are, where we resonate from, how they might already know us, and then do what exactly the show will focus on, I guess. Maybe?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Oh, that sounds like
I'm gonna do that because people know what Dragon Ball is. If you don't know what Dragon Ball is, you're living under a really, really big rock. You might be in Australia, actually. Get that checked out. Ayers Rock, there's a big giant rock there with nothing there. Get that checked out. Or you might be over the age of 60, 70. In which case, hey, how's it going? You know how to use the internet. I'm proud of you. That's great. I don't mean that as a gag. Really, that's great. Anyways, I'm Fighterxaos. You may not know me from, what? It's been a long time since I've done a podcast, haven't I? But you may know me from a bunch of podcasts because back in the day, I was like everywhere. I had my own podcast called the IkariCast, shortened from the Ikari Warriors Fan Club podcast because I was a humongous King of Fighters fan. Still am. Matter of fact, that podcast was originally intended to be a fighting game podcast. And I also was on the podcast Morphin Braces, which is where I met Wheelchairs21, where he and I would talk about tokusatsu, news, and whatnot. I also have the Geek Fighters, which was a website back in 2009 through 2010, 11. We had a lot of people there that you may be shocked to find out I used to be friends with. Go ahead and do a Wayback Machine search on thegeekfighters.com if you want to know more about that. The Geek Fighters is back now on Twitch and as a partnership with Hero Club, where you'll see our content on Hero Club, but under the Geek Fighters name, which is, if you don't know, the other Geek Fighters, the ones under me, would be 16-Bit Jeff, Double RPG, and Visible Ninja, and Visible Ninja is also a part of Hero Club. Main staff, I mean. I also have my own YouTube channel. I also draw a lot. You may know me from, like, if you see a fan art out there, bad or otherwise, with the name Fighterxaos on there, Fighterxaos, that's me! Or somebody pretending to be me. Usually, I don't think anybody would want to pretend to be me with how bad my stuff is. Was. I don't know. It's art subjective. I also do other types of fan art under a different name. Pretty easy to find. I'm not going to bring that up here. And I think that's it for all you might know me from. The Geek Fighters has a YouTube page, too. As for, I think something you guys should both do when you're introducing yourselves is talk about how you got into Dragon Ball. Why do I love this show so much? How did I get into it? Originally, I saw this show on WB in the very early mornings at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. or something like that. And I was like, this looks so dumb! Ha! And then around 1997, I was 8. My cousin started watching it on Toonami when Toonami was new. They kept telling me how great it was. I was like, you sure about that? I started watching it, started kind of getting into it. I remember what got me to be a fan. At that time, I was huge into Street Fighter. Like I said, fighting games are like my number one love. First love. My number one love now is Dragon Ball, but my first love was fighting games. And now Dragon Ball has a fighting game, so it's kind of like best of both worlds. I remember distinctly watching the Ginyu Saga. Goku fighting against Captain Ginyu when it was still, I believe Peter Kalamis was his voice at the time. This was Ocean Dub. And I remember watching Street Fighter 2, the movie. In the beginning of Street Fighter 2, the movie, when they record Ryu's fighting power, they say, he has a fighting potential of 3,000! And I remember when Goku did the Kaioken, they said, his power's 180,000. And at that time, being a kid, I was like, whoa! He could fight like 1,000 Ryus. That's amazing! That's legit how I first got into it. I just really respected Goku's strength at the time. And then as it got more and more, I started to, what's the word starts with R? Not react. Relate.
Research? Oh, completely
Relate?
Different.
Yeah, no. I started to relate to Gohan and Trunks and all that, and I started to grow more and more. Then I learned about the sub, the Japanese version. That really got me into it. It's like, wow, look at all this stuff they're cutting out. Oh man, I wish I could watch that. Then DVDs came out. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for the sub, I probably wouldn't be a fan anymore, just because the old funny dub with the Falconer music has its place in my heart. However, if it was still just that, I probably would have outgrown DBZ. Now I'm like, I watched the sub, still knowing it is still shonen, It's still meant for teenage boys. However, I liked how much more deep it was compared to the funny dub. However, hey, if you like the funny dub, don't worry about it. I might say cyan a couple times. I hope that doesn't trigger any of you. And that's it for me. You'll learn more about me. As you know, I got dyslexia, and I'll switch names a lot, and I'll call Alex a bunch of different names besides Alex. And
Yes, you
Wheels has some stuff he'll want to say. I'm gonna mute myself. Wheels, you're the other main guy. Alex will show up from time to time, but Wheels, go ahead. I'll be sitting in the back and let you, blah, blah. Except not blah, blah. I hope people listen.
Yeah, alright, so, similar to Jerry, I saw Dragon Ball for the first time on WB. Now, the interesting thing was, I went to go look for video files just to show maybe Alex some of the old bumpers. There's barely any in existence, I think, on YouTube when I went and searched. The only factoid that knows that it's on WB is anyone who looks up the old airing agreements and deals with Funimation and Blue Ocean Studios or whatever they want to call themselves, Blue Water Group, who did the original Canadian dub of the first two
Ocean Group,
or the
yeah.
Ocean Group for the American broadcast, and then they continued with their own, even though it was sort of discontinued even in Canada once Funimation fully took over for North American dubbing rights. But with WB, for some reason, they got the rights to it, and they put it on in the early mornings with Sailor Moon and syndicated episodes of Voltron. So that would be anywhere between 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., where then they would play Animaniacs and other WB kids shows in the morning of even the weekdays, rather than having an afternoon block, which they eventually got once the Pokemon boom actually happened. So when watching Dragon Ball Z, the biggest problem was, since they only focused on the first 2 seasons, it was mostly the Saiyan Saga, and the first, maybe third of the actual Frieza Saga. So we would always cut off usually right when the Ginyu Force arrived, or right when they just started battling the Ginyu Force. And because there's a lot of really terrible filler, it really watered down the show and made it very incomprehensible to me as a kid trying to just catch it in the mornings when I was trying to watch Sailor Moon and Voltron. For some reason, I just liked Voltron and Sailor Moon more than Dragon Ball Z. Maybe it's because Sailor Moon had actual physical fighting, where Dragon Ball Z was at the time of Dragon Ball Z, they were moving so fast that you only saw weird sonic booms and crackles, and I was are they even really hitting each other, or are they just farting on one another? That's me as a 4-year-old having that mentality, seeing the show. So I did not enjoy Dragon Ball whatsoever till it went to actually Toonami on Cartoon Network. But even when it went to Toonami, I didn't get into it till actually, the verge of the Cell Saga. I remember sort of, watching it when my friends would be over, but, I wouldn't really give a rat's flying ass about it till somehow, I want to say, it was when they were sort of, quickly recapping just the beginning of, Trunks arriving to the actual, oh my god, we just found this weird cockroach, bug thing out of Trunks' time machine, and then when seeing this weird bestial thing which was revealed to be Cell, I got more enamored with the show. And weirdly enough, when the Boo Saga happened, while I did like the Boo Saga, I got really into when they were starting to air Dragon Ball, and it was around that time also that the Beckett magazines were being released, mostly for Pokemon, but then they started doing other topical shonen series.
I still
so
have some Becketts.
Yeah, they had the Dragon Ball run, and when Dragon Ball practically ended its airing, they went more shonen, so it would be Inuyasha, Trigun, Bleach, Naruto, so on and so forth, and One Piece. But in the Dragon Ball ones, it was showing you stuff that wasn't airing yet, as in Dragon Ball, and it was also hyping up Dragon Ball GT at the time, and every dumbass kid in the late 90s, early 2000s that didn't know about the import, bootleg Hong Kong subs was, seeing GT for the first time in this book, or because of those Hong Kong subs getting, really hyped for what was intentionally, not a really good show. But that was all of a nostalgia fad of just back then going, oh my god, there's more Dragon Ball, especially once the Boo Saga obviously wrapped up. One thing I will talk about with Jerry is, our differences on the musical standpoints. Now, for people who don't know this, and, this is for people who are just casually interested in Dragon Ball, who are now just getting into the actual original Japanese audio due to having watched, Super being simulcast before Funimation got the rights to dub it and air it on television, is that, most of Dragon Ball Z's score is actually done by the same composer who did the first, 7 Showa Rider, Kamen Rider series. And since I'm a big Tokusatsu guy, I kind of knew that. And the thing is, his music worked better when he did live-action TV shows for suspense and humanistic reactions to, scenes and intense situations. But, I never got that vibe with Dragon Ball, most likely because of that retroactive watching of it going dub to sub. So, having that hard rock music that wasn't necessary for the show, and it felt like it fit a lot more smoother than retroactively watching it, even though some voice actors, at times, I do like better. So it's one of those things of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And we'll talk more about, like, issues with voice acting later.
Oh, yeah.
Because me and Jerry have, in a sense, similar views and different views on, obviously, Nozawa as Goku and all of the Goku family members. But overall, like I said, that was really what got me into Dragon Ball, was like, once it went to Toonami, once we got the Cell games, Cell Saga, that's really what helped me. I think also, like I said, Beckett Magazine helped, because they were, like, kind of shoehorning it into, like, the Pokemon issues, so on and so forth. And, like, since then, I've still eagerly loved Dragon Ball. I think we made the joke before we started recording that I was in partial denial, like, in a sense, is like that, like, I try to stay more tokusatsu-oriented these days, because that's what I started with.
Before we recorded, I said, you're me if I denied who I was.
Exactly, like, it's not that, like, I'm denying that I'm a Dragon Ball fan, but, like, I don't think it's my entire bread and butter, even though I'm very passionate about Dragon Ball. I don't think it's in the sense of my top tier, like, say, Godzilla, Ultraman, and Super Sentai / Power Rangers are. Like, I feel like it would go them, then most likely something like, say, Dragon Ball, then, like, Transformers, and, like, you start working your way down of other interests that I have. And for me personally, like, since I was talking mostly about getting into Dragon Ball, for people who don't know who I am, I'm mostly a YouTuber who does, like, toy reviews for Bandai products for Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Godzilla, Ultraman. I really like doing that, and then I started doing blogging. I started working on websites. I started being brought on other podcasts other than my own. And then I actually made my own website just because I didn't really have falling outs with other people, but they just started to not wanting to do site work anymore. But they didn't want to sell IPs, or they didn't want to get rid of the IP. So I had to go and make my own. So that's literally what happened. And then me and Jerry, being friends from the other business ventures that we've been on, were like, hey, let's just work together. And then that's eventually how I actually met our third guy, Alex, was through Jerry, which is ironic since I met Jerry through a friend of a friend.
I guess that's my cue then.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I guess my introduction to Dragon Ball is vastly different compared to the other two guys, in that I started with the manga. I still remember how it all started. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and I saw one of my classmates was reading the original Dragon Ball, where they were in the very first tournament between Goku and Jackie Chan, as he was reading the pocket. I was like, oh, what are you reading there? And he said, oh, it's Dragon Ball. Apparently, he actually had watched anime, because even though we don't got it here in my country, as has been stated, I am from Sweden. He still had some information that I never heard of as I started reading it. So I borrowed the first couple of pockets from him, and from there on, I was hooked. I started buying all the books that was translated. When the PS2 came out, I played the first Budokai, and that was like first time I get to hear the voices of the characters. Now, this being a European one, it was still actually the Japanese voice cast. So I still, for a couple of years later, I had no idea what the English voice, what then was going to be the current one, was going to be the Funimation. I had no idea how that sounded. Like, Goku sounded like a chick, being very young. That was kind of like, why does he sound like a chick? Like, I never think, that was not my idea. Why does Gohan sound the same? Like, the hell is going on here? But through that, like, it's just expanded. I've read the entire manga. I still have the original release in my native language. I played, I want to say, almost every release of Dragon Ball game that's been out since the PS2. And I don't know why it's been sticking with me all these years. I guess it's because, for me, it's a simple story of characters protecting other and, like, awesome fight with transformations. Like, the Super Saiyan is still one of my favorite ones. Not my personal favorite, because that's still Super Saiyan Blue. Or Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, if you want to be that person.
Side note, I will be that person sometimes.
I'm not, because I think that is way too much. Like, I understand why it is, why they keep calling it that, because of marketing reasons, but whatever. But beside that, I don't think any of you guys know who I am. If you are, then either you're remember my old days in an old podcast called the 4DS, and if you haven't seen that, and you know who I am, then Mom, please, you don't need to listen to this. Probably the only one who knew who I am. So, yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm a big-ass fan of Dragon Ball, and I don't know why.
All right, Wheels, you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, so how far are we into this?
Oh, we're only into like a halfway point. We said minimum is 30, maximum was 45. We're only like, halfway.
I have an idea for a lightning round, or something like that.
Oh.
Or rather, what pushed us to
do this show? Yeah. Actually giving a real explanation of what the show is.
Yeah, right, let's start with that. The reason why we call it Show Me the Work is because lately during Dragon Ball Super, I mean, we've seen it all throughout our Dragon Ball fandoms, as I think Alex in Wheelchair, you can agree. We've seen some crazy stuff, some crazy theories and all that, ever since we started being fans. Am I right on that?
I haven't seen
it's correct.
I haven't seen as much as you guys tell me about some things fans spout. So.
Oh God, I can tell you. Matter of fact, I can tell you something right. But the reason why we call it Show Me the Work is because we've been seeing theories, and we've been seeing, other YouTubers that come up with theories about the show that basically try to take information from the show that they know, but disregard other information completely, or, it contradicts something. So we call it Show Me the Work like a math problem. That's where I got it from. Like, hey, you gotta show the work. You gotta show me why this theory is plausible. Like,
and heck, sometimes our stuff might have some holes in it because we can't remember everything, but we'll try to research as much as we can.
Yeah, exactly. We will try. You're free to tell us that too, yeah. And it's true. Especially me. I don't remember everything.
Just don't be a dick about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, when we see other theories, we're not trying to attack you either. We're just trying like, hey, this is why. There's one theory that we all know. We can all just break it down right now. This is one example. Show us the work. Alex knows where I'm going, I think, right? You know where I'm going, right?
Yes,
the classic theory from the Tournament of Power.
Yes, my favorite
It
scene.
has a shadow clone. Now, Wheels, do you remember when Universe 6 tournament happened? Do you remember how they described Hit's time skip ability?
It's like he was just kind of jumping forward. It's not like a time remnant or a shadow clone per se as, like, say, the Flash or Naruto. It was more like he was just kind of either moving forward in time and back in time. Like, it was like kind of like he was just skipping ahead briefly to get more hits in or avoid attacks. Even though, like, I think when they jumped from the Universe 6 tournament to the Tournament of Power, they said he was creating actual, like, how it was like an after image kind of strike technique, but I don't think it was like a full straight up shadow clone. Yeah, like a time remnant.
Tangible.
I don't think they were fully tangible.
It was just like, like you said, oh crap, I thought I saw him there.
I mean, with that logic, then if you remember old fights where, like Frieza versus Goku the first time, when Frieza think he sliced through Goku with his Kien-san Destructo Disc move there, but then Goku was like, oh, it's an after image. Does that mean Goku has a clone?
That was one of Goku's first techniques in the original Dragon Ball, wasn't it?
Yeah, he copied it from Jackie Chun, who...
Yeah, he copied after image from, Roshi, I think.
Oh, yeah, Roshi, Jackie Chun.
No, man, I'm gonna be straight up. That was fucking Roshi. We're not playing that shit here.
Okay, fine.
I'm
not gonna argue.
I mean, we'll address Jackie Shun as like, hey, we want a actual figure or product based on Roshi in this persona. But like, It was Roshi. Like, I'm not gonna, be like, oh look, it's Great Saiyaman. That's obviously not Gohan. No, it's effing Gohan.
Of course. But yeah, he copied that, and it's been on, but like, again, it's after images. It's just that they move so fast that apparently there's after images still there.
And this is OG Dragon Ball that already covered this. I mean, I get it if you're a new fan. The show will not make you watch OG Dragon Ball, but all three of us can probably agree on this, that it's best to go back and watch OG Dragon Ball. Like, right? That's where...
I mean, if you want to have an understanding on how Super is, like, at times people say, oh, it's a watered-down version of Z. It's like, no, it's actually acknowledging all the stuff that Dragon Ball had that Z omitted.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where, like, if you haven't seen the original, or at least read it, like, there are a lot of things you'd be like, oh, like that one episode where, what was the name from Dr. Slump?
Arale?
Yeah, Arale, when she shows up. And it's not the first time, because Goku be like,
she showed up in OG Dragon Ball, yeah.
Yeah, there was a crossover, like a multi-part crossover.
And it was in the manga, too, because I read that part. That's not even filler.
No, it's manga. They're part of the same universe, on the same planet.
Somehow.
Yes, somehow.
Because if you read Dr. Slump, it's like, wait, this doesn't quite fit, but I guess he made it fit.
But to go back to the whole hit clone thing, from my understanding, how it works, as we said before, is that he moves forward in a sense of, like, weird pocket dimension that he can... At least that's what...
Yes, that's basically how they basically explained it. Because it's not quite time travel.
No, because the reason
why people would think he'd have a clone, a time remnant, like Flash.
Well, it isn't, because as it was stated in Super, Goku could start actually, through prediction of where he would go based on just muscle movements, because, again, Goku has been fighting for how many years? How many decades?
He's, like, pushing 50, and he feels like a baby.
I think it was, like, 10 or something like that, when he really started. So we're talking,
like 14 or something like that.
We'll say 30.
3 decades, there you go, of fighting.
Yeah. Of constantly fighting, of stronger opponents, of everything. Like, getting that, like, just how Hit would move. Because that's a surprise to Hit. Like, you'd be like, oh my god, he actually predicted my attacks. Now I need to, go beyond my limits and become faster. And he did up until Goku unleashed Kaioken in his Super Saiyan Blue state. Because at that point, Goku became faster than his time skip. And if Hit had a clone, then Hit wouldn't have got hit. It's weird saying that, actually, now.
Yeah, no, that's the
two
thing.
other-
Is like with the overall thing of like this example for, I guess, show me the work, is that there is no shadow clone. I mean, there is technically maybe a pseudo remnant, but it's not as solidified as, like, say, a shadow clone or as a solidified remnant in Flash. So even if their universe got erased, that pocket dimension got erased too. So I'm pretty sure there would be no hit at all. So it's like once he was eliminated, the pocket dimension usually stays around him. Because we even see that it's like kind of like just like proverbial like kind of force field area that's probably like in maybe a 1 meter radius around him. It doesn't, I don't think, expand multiple radius. Like it doesn't have a wide range. I think it's like, a meter or two. So if he's out of the ring, out of the tournament, that means there could be no chance of that fallacy being there. So then, of course, once it's erased, so would be if there was an actual clone, the clone would be gone too. Yeah, overall, I think, though, like, as this being just our prime example, is just that it's one of those ones where I think it was started as a shitpost, and then people thought it was a legitimate claim. I think it was just made of a troll.
It was a meme,
and then it just got blown out of proportions because,
just like all the Mexican theories. El Grande Padre.
Wait, which one's that one?
Oh God, the Mexican.
Isn't that on the same level of like what's
El,
it?
El Hermano, yeah.
El Blanco Gohan or something like that?
Yeah,
Blanco
Gohan Blanco.
Wait,
yeah.
what? Okay, you gotta explain this one, Jerry.
Okay, there's these Mexican memes that would say that, the real bad guy tournament power is the Grand Priest El Grande Padre in Spanish. And that, he was the one behind it all. And that, to beat him, it would have to be Gohan having a form where he has white hair, Gohan Blanco. And then, and Jiren had a brother named El Hermano, the brother, literally the brother. So he was also up there in power, stronger than Jiren. Gohan Blanco was the one to save it all, to fight El Hermano.
That's too funny. I don't remember that, but that sounds like one of those really crappy fake Televicoon scan things. And I'm pretty sure it was like a shit post within a shit post.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was straight up shit post. Yeah, it was just memes. That's why I didn't bring it up. Like, those were definitely just memes.
I know, I'm just sitting here like, wow, is this real or is this a shit post? That's why I'm like, let's bring it up on the episode, because this is some really ludicrous stuff.
I sent a link to one of...
As a Latino fan, even I'm like, what? Why is my side the fandom always, like, making up stuff like this?
Alright, but, so I guess before we tangent even further, and we used our prime example there with Hit, is that, like, the show's, as Jerry's explained, it's a theory kind of discussion. Like, we're just bringing up theories. We will talk about misconceptions. We'll talk about weird issues that we've even had with the show and whatnot. How we'll probably
perfect one we
the
should
show
do next time. It's about Super, and it's recent, yeah.
Oh, you mean the recent debacle that we've seen all of the Dragon Ball tubers having debates upon with each other about the argument of what's canon and what's filler, and some of the people
that's a good one too.
Above and beyond, or
I'm talking about Miras.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the thing that enraged all of us.
Okay, you mean in the recent episode? In the recent not
chapter
volumes,
of the manga. Yeah.
Chapters of the manga.
I haven't read that one yet, so we will have to do that next time. So I have full knowledge
I
about
gotta
it.
Either like, hey Wheels, here's my login for Shonen Jump. Just read it.
Yeah, no, because like that's the thing is like that's the gist of how this, like Jerry said, and then we gave our examples. It was we would be discussing actual theories, misconceptions, and just our own, I guess, personal misconceptions or whatnot. Because there's just so many things where whether it's Toei, Toriyama, Toyotaro, and fans themselves that get so confusing, because I remember the best discussion you and me once had, Jerry, which will end up being probably a discussion, the infamous, how many wishes does the new Shenron have? Because that has been a weird issue ever since, honestly, I think Battle of Gods.
Is it 3 or 2?
Yeah, the issue of, is it 3 or 2? And in actuality, for shorthand, it is 3, but it was an actual translation error.
I want to leave you with this, since we're at a good time. I want to leave you with this. When I was a kid, this is what made me on this side of the fandom where I like to think about theories and stuff. There was a kid who knew I loved Dragon Ball back when I was in elementary school, and he would give me the most BS, and I believed him. Here's his list of things he told me. You're gonna love this. How many Dragon Ball series there are? He's like, well, first is Dragon Ball, then there's C. Okay, this is funny. Then there's then there's GT. It's so dumb, but I believed it as a kid. Then there's Dragon Ball QT. And Dragon Ball X. And he told me, there's a part, it's funny how it kind of came true with this part. He says the part where Cell shows Gohan a vision of him killing Goku, and it makes Gohan become something called a, quote, Mega Saiyan, which is beyond any level of Super Saiyan and has red hair. And then, boom, Super Saiyan God. Isn't that weird?
Maybe he's the one who was there when Super Saiyan God came to be.
Dragon Ball QT and Dragon Ball X, so I don't know why I believe that.
I remember the infamous, what is it, Dragon Ball AF or whatever, Toyotoro's fanfic.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those being supposedly the storyline of After G, because Toro was like, oh, I'm gonna just carry on with what GT did. And then, like, it got really high where people were making, like, random Super Saiyan levels out of Super Saiyan levels.
God,
They're like, oh, here's a Super Saiyan 5, here's a Super Saiyan 6, here's Super Saiyan X.
Yep.
I remember that, and everybody, like, it just became more looking like Broly, but it was Super Saiyan 4, but just with longer hair.
Here's a fun fact about that famous Super Saiyan 5 image people would see. It was actually not Goku, it's an OC, a Spaniard made called Tablos. And he still has an Instagram. It's called Tablos AF, and he's still drawing fanfics and stuff.
That's pretty funny. That is actually pretty funny, because there was multiple Super Saiyan 5s and onwards that I saw. Yeah. One was like a Super Saiyan 4,
famous
but
one
they
with
were
the white
gold.
hair, white long hair. That's the
that's the famous. One. That's the other one, and I know the other one is usually like a pure blonde Super Saiyan like 4.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm Googling them right now, and I've seen, although apparently there's a Super Saiyan 8 where this basically is the 4, but they kind of have the tone of the Super Saiyan Blue.
In middle school, we all talked about Super Saiyan 5 and 8 and stuff. That's kind of how I became on this side of the fandom.
I also remember, too, that, like, some of those got debunked because Beckett themselves were like, these don't exist. Like, I remember there was an issue where Beckett was like, yo, these are all fake. Stop being stupid. Stop sending us emails. This is fanfic. Here's something I want to bring up before we actually have to start wrapping up, since we are tangenting, because I know you're going to want to wrap up soon.
Oh, yeah.
Is one of my favorite things that I want to do on this episode is if I can find the original Beckett fan cast in one of my issues.
I have that
cast.
Issue.
Yes.
For a live action movie, yeah.
Yes, they had a fan cast
The
for a
Rock
live...
should play Cell.
No, it was Vin Diesel, if I recall. Vin Diesel was one of the guys that they wanted, either a Cell or Frieza, and I think The Rock was in it too, but I think it was, The Rock was probably Cell, but Frieza was Vin Diesel, I think. I don't understand why. And I remember they had a really weird obsession at the time with all of their fan cast having, like, I think Alicia Cutbirth or whatever, the chick from 24, and that movie called The Girl Next Door, because she was their Android 18, and she was also fan casted in, like, almost every Beckett, like, live action adaptation. They're like, make Alicia Cutbirth this, make it that. And I just remember, like, every live action fan cast, she was, like, in all of them, and I remember there being to the extent that Beckett got so ludicrous with, like, their fan casting, they wanted Tom Welling to be Goku, and then, like, someone made a custom Goku figure with Tom Welling's head and sent it to the Beckett office.
Ha!
And it was the cover of one of their issues.
Wow.
One thing I kind of wanted that we talked about is, as I said, I don't have much experience with the animes, and I have less with the movies. I haven't seen a single Dragon Ball movie.
That's right. That's what we mainly are going to have him for, basically, people, if you don't know. Because he hasn't seen the movies, we would love his fresh take on them.
Yes, except for the 2 super movies, Battle Goddess and Berserker.
Still there, Wheels?
And then the one thing that we have to do also is just an episode that might end up being something where it's a fan vote of us watching the worst dubs ever. Again. Like, we already do that in our personal lives, but,
exactly. You're going to love that. I remember showing you those, Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
What else?
I was gonna say, Jerry, is there anything else, like, you want to at least, like, maybe, in a sense, be more conclusive or, give a good recap for people still somehow listening to our crazy shenanigans?
Well, the future episodes will be a lot more structured, by the way, so don't worry about that. This is literally like this because we didn't know what time we wanted to record. He did tell me, I forgot it, and then he didn't know what day, and I was like, this day. So, future episodes will be a lot more streamlined, a lot more, what's the word, Wheels?
Well, you said structured, streamlined.
Structured, yeah, that's what
scheduled. Because, I mean, like, we'll probably have episodes where it's kind of like fluffer ones, where it's like talking not just more about our introduction, but more in-depth takes. Because, like, I completely forgot figures in video games, so it's like we'll probably end up doing episodes like that,
about that.
When we run out of stuff.
Alex was the only one who brought up playing the games. It's like, oh yeah, that's right.
That was me. That was a big part of my growing up with Dragon Ball, was straight up video games.
Pretty much. Remember that big rock Jerry mentioned at the beginning of the show? That's pretty much the equivalent of Sweden.
Yeah.
Yes, because my country sucks when it comes to anime.
Which is why you don't bootleg. And, is there anything else, Wheels?
I don't think we got anything else. I think now's that time when we start doing that thing called the plugging and the chugging.
Alright. So, if you want to leave us comments, go right ahead. If you want to email us, do you want me to use my podcast email? Or something?
We could probably just make an email up in the future. For now, just hit us up at Hero Club's Twitter, Facebook?
Or me and Wheels' Twitter?
Yeah, like our Twitters or the Geek Fighters.
Or the Geek Fighters, yeah.
We'll maybe make, like, you know, an actual email for it, but I mean, like, if
for now, you could just hit me or Wheels up, yeah.
Hit us up personally, or the Hero Club, or Geek Fighter stuff. Like, you got so many pages, we'll explain it all as we're doing it correctly.
So, right now, I I guess I'll go first. You can find me at a lot of places. The Geek Fighters. The Geek Fighters have a Facebook and a Twitter and a YouTube. The Geek Fighters, all one word. And you can find me on Twitter at Fighterxaos, Fighterxaos, on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram, and I don't know where else, but I'm pretty much everywhere. And like I said, you can hit me up on the Twitter or on my Facebook or something like that until we make in Dragon Ball email. Also, check out my pinned tweet if you want to help me pay my cable bill, because if I don't, I'm not going to be on these episodes because they're going to cut off my internet. So yeah, check out my Twitter, social media, all same name. YouTube, same name. That's me. And Hero Club, but we also get into that more.
So I am Wheelchair21. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Wheelchair21. Instagram is Taja_Doyle. Now, like Jerry said, you can contact us at either The Geek Fighters TGF on their actual Twitter page, or you can go to Hero Club, where you can find the main stuff of the bulk of our stuff, whether it be on the Hero Club YouTube or the Hero Club website, which is hero-club.com. And to find Hero Club on social media, it's Hero Club for Life. So that's a pretty simple thing, just Hero Club for Life. Number 4 for life. Old school NWO stuff right there. And that's practically the best way to stay in touch with us. Whereas Bad Gamer, I don't think you don't have social media, do you?
No. I have nothing to plug. I'm generally the type of dude who usually keep to myself and just hang with my friends. So you can't reach me. If you want to reach me, you're going to have to go through the other guys first, if that's the case. Unless there's a demand, I maybe will do something in the future.
Alright then, so overall, Jerry, like I said, one day we'll eventually have to make a more streamlined outro then, but we'll figure that out for our next episode, since this is still the pilot, I would say, correct?
Yes, it's one thing I already want to end with. If there's nothing else, we've finished. Only 2 words left for me to say. I say it every time. They're in Japanese. They mean mission complete, but I like to say it in Japanese because I'm a big King of Fighters fan and all the Akari warriors say it. Mimi, Kando.